Ever since Yuya was young, he knew that he was not welcomed by the world. Despite this, he still wishes to help someone even if it is a little. He walks down a quiet street when he comes across Kaori getting bothered by some local thugs who express interest in her. She is adamant that she doesn't want this kind of attention, but the guys try to persuade her to join them for a drink. Yuya's heart races as he watches the situation unfold and musters up the courage to confront the three men. He calls to them very timidly, making them stop their tomfoolery for a moment as they glare at him. Yuya is on the heavier side of the scale and is the furthest thing from a knight in shining armor. Kaori looks on intrigued at her savior as the thugs insult his looks for interrupting them. The three square up to him suspecting that he is looking for trouble. Even though he stumbles a little, Yuya alerts the troublemakers that they are disturbing the girl. This enrages the trio as they beat him up for his transgressions. The girl watches frozen in fear, unable to move. The sound of the police approaching causes the thugs to run, which probably saves his life and stopped him from getting reincarnated in another world with an overpowered ability. The lady rushes over to him to find out if he is okay. She offers to support him to get up, but Yuya finds his feet alone and walks off, stating that he's fine. The officers and the damsel watch on as he stumbles away. Yuya walks a little longer and reflects on his grandfather's teaching that he must be kind to people in need, and that it takes courage to do so. He reaches his home. By the time he finishes his reflection, he knows that his ugly looks are irritating to those around him. Not only was he picked on in school, but even in the house, his parents didn't allow him to mix his clothes with the rest of the families because he was the ugly duckling. This was only made worse because his younger brother and sister were blessed with beauty, so they never treated him like a human. The harsh treatment escalated even further when he entered middle school, as he was often thrown in the trash. His traumatic flashback ends when he enters the house. The loner lies in a room where his grandfather's memorial is placed. The old-timer was the only one who took care of him, and he repeats one of his golden nuggets of information, which reads that he should never let any adversity get the best of him because happiness surely comes to those who are kind to others. The day that he passed away was a difficult one for Yuya. His grandfather left him with the house and all his savings. Naturally, Yuya's parents came to take it away, but they were not able to because his grandfather put some precautions in place. This frustrated them, so they completely abandoned his upbringing. Left with no other option, Yuya lived in the house alone and became a part-time worker every day to survive. He spends the night in that room. The following day is his middle school graduation ceremony. The normal students interact with each other as they take pictures and write nice messages into one another's yearbooks. Yuya hides behind one of the buildings and checks his notebook only to find it full of comments insulting him, telling him he is undesirable and not wanted, among other harsh things. Even though the words sting a little, he closes the book and runs towards the exit. Suddenly, he is tripped up by the school bullies who tell him that although he's graduating from middle school, he will forever be their punching bag. He pleads with them to let him go because he has a part-time job delivering newspapers he must rush to. They dismiss his comment and begin to beat him for what they call cockiness. The other students gather laughing as they document what is going on. All the while, Yuya's brother and sister watch from a distance, also amused. The beating finally ends later than expected. His yearbook is ripped up and he has a bad black eye. To make matters worse, he is berated by his boss for coming late when he finally gets to work. His superior tells him that he had someone else deliver them, so he doesn't have to come the following day. All Yuya does is apologize for the inconvenience caused. He heads back home and has some instant ramen. He hunches over and slurps the noodles till he finishes. After staring at the broth for a while, he heads into the bathroom to rinse his mouth. He looks at his battered face in the mirror and begins to cry. It all becomes too much, so he punches the mirror repeatedly out of frustration. As his hand bleeds, he doesn't believe that anything will change going forward. With his other hand, he punches the bathroom wall, which opens a secret door. He stumbles inside a hidden room. The guy remembers that his grandfather was always visiting various places around the world and was consistently bringing him strange souvenirs. As he looks around the storage area, Yuya comes across a mysterious door. It piques his interest, so he decides to open it and he's transported to a cabin. As soon as Yuya steps foot inside, a menu pops up which startles him. It alerts him that he is in another world. The guy looks back through to make sure he's still connected to his room. He is then informed on what the appraisal skill can do. More information pops up telling him of other menu functions, including an option to cash out, but he's not sure what it entails for the moment. The system also informs him that he's the only one who can use the door to another world. Yuya starts to figure that it works similar to a video game, so he decides to check his status, and at the moment he's at level 1 for everything, which makes him a little depressed. However, he is given starter points which he assigns to some of his stats. The guy also finds out that he has an item box, but he's more eager to see the fantasy world, so he rushes to the window to peep outside. The scenery confirms that he's really in another world. Yuya closes the window and spots a piece of paper on the table. He can't read it because it's written in another worldly language. The system gives him a useful skill that enables him to comprehend the text. After examining it, he learns that the owner of the house was a sage who passed away. If someone finds the crib, ownership of the house and everything inside will be transferred to them. Yuya just became the owner, and because ownership is automatically renewed by magic, no one else can break in except for the owner. He wonders who this sage is that used such magic. Yuya begins to look around and finds a pile of weapons that he begins to inspect. A sword catches his attention, and as he admires it, he checks the stats and realizes that it's far more dangerous than expected. Now that he has something to defend himself with, he decides to venture outside. He walks out into the garden wondering if all of it is recognized as the house. When he confirms this, he begins to run around trying to practice with the sword, but he slips and falls. The system tells him that he has unlocked another skill, and he speculates that the reason he is gaining them so fast is that he's an otherworlder. He continues by trying all the different types of weapons and concludes that they are all dangerous. He gains the true martial arts skill for that running around he did. Yuya decides to put all the weapons in his item box. As he prepares to put the last one in, a bloody ogre suddenly appears and dashes toward the house, but the barrier keeps it out since Yuya is the only one who can enter. The guy recoils in fear till he remembers this. He uses his appraisal skill to check exactly what is attacking him and is terrified of its level and the ferocity of its assault. The monster uproots a tree and throws it, but that doesn't work either. He decides to try to throw the spear he's holding. Yuya gets his stance and launches it with such power that it cleanly pierces the monster, ending it in one blow. The spear returns to him while he falls to the floor in shock. As the creature disintegrates, the system alerts him that he has leveled up, and when he checks, it is significant. A glow over the fence catches his attention, so he goes to check. Turns out that the bloody ogre dropped some loot, which includes high-level armor. After he picks it up, he begins to allocate his points to the different stats. When he finishes, he decides to call it a day and heads home for some rest. As he approaches the door, it activates the cash out, which drops some real-world money in exchange for his work. Yuya doesn't complain and picks it up. That night his body goes through a metamorphosis as it reconstructs itself while he cries in pain. The following morning, he wakes up and he's more cut than a bodybuilder on competition day. The guy went from "sorry you had to look at me" to "Mr. Steal your girl in one night," and all without taking chicken and broccoli. He notices that his body feels weird as his clothes don't fit again. He makes his way to the bathroom, and because he broke his mirror, he can't see his face. He doesn't take any notice of it as he still thinks he's ugly. It is revealed that the system and its perks follow him to his world as he uses it to get dressed. He thanks the sage for leaving some clothes behind. Yuya enters back into the other world and has noticed that his field of vision has improved. Yuya also finds that the sage was growing vegetables, so he continues to tend to them. He uses his appraisal to check exactly what is being grown, and he is surprised by how nutritious everything is. He is starting to get used to things as a monster approaching his house doesn't scare him anymore. Yuya casually summons the spear and takes it out with one shot again. It drops some loot including coffee jelly. There is also a rare item that he picks up and wears right away. It gives him a stat boost. He later cashes out and decides to buy a new uniform, so he goes to get his new measurement. He alerts the tailor that he wants it before his high school entrance ceremony. Over the coming days, he spends every day enjoying his otherworld home. Yuya makes a delicious meal with the vegetables that he harvested. At first, coming to this new world was to help with his depression when he thought of the first day of high school. But before he knew it, his curiosity about the other world completely outweighed his first day fears. He goes out to train for a while before heading back in to try the coffee jelly. He is reluctant to eat it, but he forces himself, and to his surprise, he enjoys it. One evening he does his checks when he is suddenly ambushed by an elite goblin. Yuya swiftly dodges its attack and counters before finishing it off with a well-placed spear thrust. He notices that he didn't level up this time around. The guy feels that no matter how strong he gets in this new world, his school problems will persist. The following day, his worst nightmare arrives. He walks through the school oblivious to his new looks. The girls admire him, even his siblings watch in awe from a distance. He checks which class he belongs to before heading there. As soon as he sits down, his bullies confront him, causing him to freeze in fear. Yuya gets confused when they ask him if he's a transfer student. The other pupils watch the encounter. He tells them that it's him, Yuya, The whole class and his sibling react in shock. The bullies can't believe what they are hearing. Given everyone's reaction, he rushes to the washroom to check his face. He too is shocked and can't believe that it's him. Things continue during break time when Yuya's younger siblings and bullies corner him at a secluded part of the school near the roadside. They try to pressure him to find out what he did to achieve such a ridiculous transformation, but he gives a vague answer which further annoys them. They feel like no matter what he does, he can never be better than them since he's not smart or athletic and has no future. Their verbal assault comes to a halt when a luxury car pulls up close to them. They are all in confusion when Kaori steps out in elite fashion and calls Yuya's name as she makes the right assumption that he's the one. She comments on how much he's slimmed down since their last meeting when he identifies himself. She finds it amusing when he doesn't recognize her and reminds him that she was the damsel in distress he saved at the convenience store from the thugs. He gasps as the memories of the event flash into his mind, but he's confused as to how she knows his name. Kaori confesses that she wanted to thank him, so she had him investigated, and acknowledges that it was rude of her. She bluntly asks him to attend Isekai Academy, which takes him by surprise. Yuya's younger brother comments that he knew she was from that school when he saw the uniform. Yuya's confusion continues to grow as it is a super elite school. Kaori apologizes for the late introduction as she reveals that she's a student council officer at the school. Her aide takes over, adding that her father is the chairman of the Isekai Academy board, so when he heard that Yuya saved his daughter from some ruffians, the chairman wanted him to attend their academy. Yuya doesn't feel like he saved her, as it was more him getting beat up. He is incredibly grateful for the offer but has to decline because he doesn't have the academic ability to enroll. His siblings interrupt, pleading to let them enroll in place of him. They state that they are overwhelmingly superior to their older brother. They add that they excel in both academics and sports, but before they can finish their pitch, Kaori cuts them off and declines them. She states that she's deeply indebted to Yuya, so wouldn't want anyone that insults him to enroll at the academy. Kaori reveals that they are aware of their daily spiteful deeds towards him, as it has all been thoroughly investigated. The two fall to the floor in despair, knowing that their chances of ever going to such a school are impossible now. Kaori turns her attention back to Yuya as she explains that elite school prioritizes the strength of character over academic prowess, so his enrollment would pose no problem at all. Her servant suggests that they show him around the academy. As they discuss further, he is a little reluctant to go since he's in school, but she assures him that his principal will be informed of his absence. With that settled, Kaori excitedly grabs his hand as she leads him to the car. They speed off while the siblings and bullies promise to get their revenge. Shortly after, the two arrive at the posh school, which is so famous that even a nobody like Yuya has heard of it. Many of the students that enroll there excel in one field or another. It is said that if one is to get accepted, their future success is assured. This is a world he has never had any connection with. They head over to the chairman's office where he's given tea. As the boss thanks him for coming, he officially introduces himself and shows his gratitude for him saving his daughter. Yuya gets shy and pleads for him to raise his head, explaining that what he did wasn't that impressive. Kaori points out that everyone else was reluctant to help. He was the only one that did anything on her behalf. The chairman adds that he should be proud of his actions, as it is a testament to his splendid character, which is what is most valued at the school. Kaori's father gets straight to the point and expresses his wish to have him attend the school, since it also serves as a reward. He will not have to pay tuition. Yuya brings up the point again that the school is only for geniuses. The chairman explains that the genius is someone who finds the most efficient way to complete a task over others. Apart from that, they are the same as everyone. Her father believes that they all have their own unique talents. The school has to identify and nurture that through challenging students in different ways. So there is no need for Yuya's self-deprecation. All he has to do is take his time and find himself. His wise words remind him of his grandfather. The chairman suggests that he spends the rest of the day on a trial enrollment. Before he gives his answer, Ma Sawada comes in and the chairman introduces her as a leading scientist. The students love her lessons because they are easy to understand, so Yuya is to sit through one of her classes. With things already arranged, he decides to take the offer and spend the day. He waits just outside the class, worried about how the other students are going to receive him as the teacher does a pre-introduction. His apprehensions are based on his horrible past experiences. She prompts him to come in, but he hesitates for a moment before entering. He steps forward and gives his formal introduction to the class. The students gawk at him for a moment, which makes him self-conscious that he messed up. A female student breaks the silence as she comments on how insanely handsome he is. All the girls are in shock and shaken by his presence. The number one pretty boy acknowledges him as a formidable rival. The teacher snaps them back to the moment. She instructs him to sit by the window at the back row. The lesson begins, and the teacher pleads with Hayadu to share her book with him, so they join their tables. After his first interaction with her, he feels like he messed up and that she hates him, but that is far from the case because with his new looks, even if he farted loudly in class, he will still maintain his Giga Chad status. As the lesson continues, he realizes that it isn't much different from the kind of classes he was used to. The main difference is that students here are more proactive, and it seemed like everyone is having fun, which is something he has never experienced before. After the class, a few students gather around him to learn more about the new student. Raya saves him, telling them that they are overwhelming him, and they apologize as they excuse themselves. He introduces himself and invites Yuya to the cafeteria for some food. The newcomer is in awe at the variety and quality of the food available. He is even more surprised at how affordable it all is. Raya points out that if he's spoilt for choice, the daily special is a safe pick and it's free. Yuya thinks he's in paradise based on what he is seeing. They get their food, and as they walk to find a seat, they are waved over by Shingdo. As they sit to eat, Yuya realizes that they are into anime and video games like him. He notices that everyone in the cafeteria is staring at him and concludes that it's because of his different uniform. After a few more lessons at the school, the day ends, so he makes his way back to the chairman's office for a debrief. Yuya finds the school amazing and would love to attend if they would accept him. He shows his respect to the chairman as he makes the declaration. After the meeting, Kaori waits outside, anxious to know what his verdict is, so she is happy to hear that he wants to attend. She asks if he's free, and the two head over to some upscale shops that students normally stop by after school. Yuya asks if she normally comes often with her friends, but she embarrassingly confesses that she doesn't hang out with people, which baffles the newcomer. She continues to explain that it's because of her family prestige and her father's work, and as a result, many people remain reserved around her. She is happy that she got to come with him though. Her words make him nervous, so he changes the topic by pointing out a crepe store for them to try together. They both get different flavors and sit down to eat. As all the other students steal glances at them, they laugh and interact with one another. Yuya is interested to know how she knew it was him despite his drastic transformation. She tells him that his eyes remained the same, so she knew right away from his honest and kind eyes. The girl's riz is too much. He starts to blush as he addresses her formally. This annoys Kaori a little because she thought at this point they have become quite friendly, so she wants him to address her by her first name. To commemorate their friendship, they both take a bite of each other's crepes, which makes them shy. All the girls around watch the romantic moment and pass comments on how cute it was. After his little date with Kaori, Yuya heads back home and puts on his new armor ready to head into the fantasy world. He's not sure how busy he will be once the enrollment procedures are officially complete, so he wants to spend some time leveling up in case he doesn't get the chance. He steps through the gate and out into the world and is immediately met with a monster violently trying to breach the barrier. Yuya still gets afraid when he has to face a monster, but he overcomes it once again and lands a swift attack that vanquishes the creature. He drops the loot inside his item box. The guy opens his stat menu to check his level, which is 235. He's noticed that he's leveling up a lot slower now, so he figures that he will not improve if he remains in the confines of the house. Yuya looks into the deep forest and he's sure that there are powerful monsters beyond the fence. He thinks about how things have turned around for him in his world before opening the gate and stepping forward. His daydreaming is interrupted by a scream of pain. He pulls out his spear and dashes into the forest to investigate. Yuya finds corpses all over the place, and just ahead of him is a level 200 goblin general. He is also surprised to see what looks like a human lady hiding in fear. He dashes towards the general and launches his spear at it, which the creature easily deflects, but it leaves the monster open for a drop kick to the face, which knocks it back. The girl informs him of the incoming attack from behind. He evades, and after a few exchanges, Yuya takes it down with a sword slice. He rushes over to the lady asking if she's okay, but she falls unconscious, wondering who he is. Soon after, a voice calls the name Lexia. As it approaches, Yuya uses his invisible skill to disappear just as they arrive. While he watches, the unit rush over to the lady. They check for signs of life and are relieved to see she is breathing. That brings the episode to an end.